Hello, buddy. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at some of the demonic glory and different rewards you can get for playing the Demons of Chaos Undivided. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Check out the rest of the content as well. We have dozens of campaigns for Warhammer 2 available, and we're going to be doing lots of content for Warhammer 3. So this is going to have to be a second-hand account of this aspect of the game. I do not have access yet. I know a lot of the other big timers out there have access, the people that have 100,000 plus subs. I'm not sure how this person got access. I mean, this person literally has 1.8. I mean, maybe this is just a smaller channel from like a bigger channel or something. I don't know, but I don't meet the threshold with 30,000 subs to get the this early access that a lot of people have right now. So I will have some access eventually. I'm not sure exactly when that will be, but it will be before the launch of the game. So as soon as I get access like that, then I will be able to go in there, dig in myself, and make my own primary content. But for this one, I'm just going to have to be looking at this other person's content. That's really quick. It was about 6 minutes or so. Doesn't have any audio. They just hover all of the demonic stuff. And I'm just going to be talking about some of the strategy elements and some of the different things people could be doing to find success on this champion. But all of these numbers are subject to change. This is still development in progress, as you can see. So if something seems particularly powerful or particularly weak, there's a chance it could get balanced. But I'm just going to talk about some of the breakpoints that look like they could be really strong, what some of the different builds might be that could be interesting, and what I think could be the strongest way to go as far as if you want to play this. Now, like I said, there are tons and tons of other content creators out there that talk about, the campaign, and there are some campaigns out there that are like the first X number of turns, I don't know, 50 turns or something like that, where you can sort of see this in action. But I wanted to talk about more the strategic side just because I can't play those campaigns, and a lot of people aren't going in depth on the numbers and the strategic side from what I've seen. It's a bunch of the kind of casual or for fun content creators just going in there, just trying stuff out. So I wanted to talk a bit about optimization from what I'm seeing. But anyways, let's go ahead and get in here without further ado. So he hovers everything. I'm just going to stop at certain spots and just point out stuff that I think is interesting. But basically how this works overall, if you haven't seen any of the other content yet, is it's kind of like Norska, where whenever you burn a town or sack a town or whatever, you can dedicate it to a certain lord. And if you do that, then you get favor. You can also, when you win battles... Okay, it's a carrot. Good job. That's cool. So when you win battles or take towns, you can gain certain favor with certain factions, and then there are other quests you can do. There are certain skills you can get. So there are a lot of different ways that you can gain favor to build this up. And once you build up that bar of favor, it fills up over here. There are certain checkpoints, and once you meet certain checkpoints, it unlocks specific units you can recruit from the corresponding faction. Also, once you get to certain breakpoints, then it gives you a total faction bonus of different things, and it unlocks these different augments that you can apply to your lord. So it unlocks different helms, it unlocks different arms, different torsos, and things like that. And obviously you can only have one helm, at a time. You can only have one torso at a time. And I believe there are sets and set bonuses. I don't know if we're going to be able to see all of those or not. But I think the ones that have the little golden icon in the upper right is a set bonus. So if you wear certain sets of armor, then you get different bonuses that correspond with the theme of the faction. So if you get a Nurgle set bonus, it's probably going to give you, some extra HP, maybe some poison, regeneration, that type of stuff. So you can mix and match however you want, as long as you have enough favor with the specific faction. You can mix and match units, you can mix and match augments, you can get the bonuses from different factions, so you can kind of get it all. But you are going to have to make choices, because there is going to be a finite amount of these things that you can get. And, sorry for my daughter in the background. I have to talk to her occasionally. It's just hashtag dad things, trying to bring you guys the content. But, I'm a dad. There's stuff going on in the house, and that's just how it is for now. Really young kids that don't understand boundaries and stuff sometimes, but it'll be fine. So anyway, so I just want to walk through what I think is optimal. Now, one thing to note that I'll put in here, I believe from what I saw from watching some of the other campaign footage, and I haven't had time to watch all the footage that's out there. And again, I didn't get any early access for any of this. I just got to see it about the same time you guys did. Is these big checkpoints here where you have like these icons and you have these things, these little breakers, that is corresponding to different tiers when you can hire units. So this guy here for Nurgle, it's 1, 2, 3 checkpoints up, which means you have to have a tier 3 building in a town to build this. So these things right here are going to be tier 4 units, and then I believe these are, when you get to this next checkpoint, these are tier 5 units. So that means you're going to have a tier 5 town to hire these units. So if you have watched any of my content for the last 6 months or any Total War content, most likely, especially that's played at the highest difficulty, like Legendary, growth was nerfed hugely. And I don't know if it's going to like carry over into Warhammer 3, where if you have like poor public order, it affects your growth tremendously. Okay, awesome, Rory. That's very good. If you have poor public order, then that's going to affect your growth by up to, I think, -25 for most factions. So, and they increase the amount of growth it takes to tech up. So basically, it takes a lot longer to get to tier 4 and tier 5 than it used to, and even tier 3. So the units that are tier 4, just be very careful if you're trying to play this on a high difficulty, because you will likely not be able to get those units for quite a long time. And I don't know the kind of defensive structures. I've heard that the garrisons are better in Warhammer 3 than they were in Warhammer 2, but because you are, a pillaging, horde-like faction for the most part, you want to be going out, being aggressive, taking lots of territory, which means it's going to be potentially difficult to defend if you're trying to get to a tier 4 or tier 5 town, because you do have to have the towns. It's not like a traditional horde where you build the buildings with you. Right, like Warriors of Chaos. At least from what I understand, you still have to build it in towns. But you want to go wide. You want to be attacking everywhere. So that creates some interesting tension there. If you want to get to tier 4, tier 5, you're going to have to devote resources to probably protect those towns. Or you might have to pick very specific places that have like 4 local towns, and maybe they have a landmark building, or just maybe a bunch of them have harbors or something like that are going to give you extra growth. Or maybe there are specific growth buildings you can get to help you out. But just keep in mind that anything that's beyond this line right here, these are going to be tier 4 and higher. So you're not going to see them for a very long time. And you're probably going to have to devote resources to defend those areas if you want to get to the tier 4 or tier 5. So cool units, but you may never see them. If you've watched my campaigns, it takes a very long time. Even if you're just, dominating a campaign with most factions, it's going to take a really long time to get to tier 5, and even quite a long time to get to tier 4 after those nerfs to growth. Okay, so when we're thinking about optimization here, you really want to look at the tier 1 and tier 2 buildings, and you can get these pretty cheaply. But these are going to be the things that you're likely going to be spamming in some of your like freshly conquered territories to replenish your troops. And then the tier 3 more loosely can be pretty important, but that's still going to take a while to tech up, and you may have to defend that as well. So the tier 1 and tier 2 is really, really important for a faction like this that's trying to take over lots of territory. Okay, let's see what they have here. And, credit to PC Invasion. So if you want to check that out, again, I've never really heard of this channel. I just know that they, they have access to this and I don't. So be sure to go over there, maybe check out the rest of their content. Do they even have... Okay, they do have some content out there. It looks like they do, like, movies and stuff, too. I'm not really sure, but go check them out. So credit to them for this, but let's see what they have here. Okay, so they're starting up with the Chaos Undivided. Now, it is worth noting that if you go with this, and I'll talk about this more in a second, you get a lot of different choices with Demons. You get the most choices possible if you max this out. So when you get to about 4,000 favor, then you really unlock. So it's a very good late game sort of way to go is Undivided, but you get no units on the way up there, like 0 units. So you're going to have to pick some of these. And that's, again, why I think another reason that you should really pay attention to units that are strong at the tier 1 and tier 2 because it doesn't take a lot of favor to get those. So if you can get away with just, armies full of tier 1 and tier 2 units that are particularly effective, that means you can spend more of your favor going all the way to just rush Undivided if that's what you want to do. And that's going to give you the most late game options. So you're going to have a lot of diversity, but less raw power, especially in the early game when you don't have as many of these tier 3 and tier 4 units you're going to be able to get potentially. Okay, so there's kind of hovering these. I don't think there are a lot. Now, some I just don't know what they do, like Purge the Weak. I don't know what that is. So some of these could be really strong or not. These ability things, all I know are the stats. So unless I'm familiar with what it says. Okay, so Fanged Teeth. Now, this is part of the set that I was talking about. Okay, so this is the set bonus. If you have all 3 of those, Fanged Wings, Torso, and Tail, then Glory for all of your facts, for all of your possibilities, is increased by 7. You get Undivided Corruption plus 3, and then you get Armor Piercing Weapon Damage. I believe that's just for you personally plus 10, so pretty weak set bonus in my opinion. But it's okay. Okay, and they only show you what has been unlocked here for the most part. They do go over deeper into the tree in a little bit and show you the late game stuff, but they don't show you all of this stuff that's unlocked. But you can see the icons, and if you're familiar with the units from other videos, you can kind of see which icons will become available here. Okay, but they might have an NDA thing where they can't show certain things. Okay, so Khorne. Khorne's early game, they have no infantry at tier 1, which I find to be very bizarre, but they do have 2 flanking units. The War Beasts are pretty bad compared to the other ones. They're 100 gold. We actually get to see the money, which is cool. 26 melee attacks, 17 defense is okay. Only 6,000 HP. Pretty low armor, no physical resist. They're basically the War Beasts, like dogs from the first unit. They're okay at like running down archers and things like that, but they're really not that great. Okay, then we have these Flesh Hounds. Now these are a lot better. They do cost significantly more. They're 175. But these things, can put in some pain. They still only have 30 armor, so not tremendous. Still fairly low HP. They are monstrous in size, so keep that in mind. They're going to be weak to spears, halberds, that type of thing. They do have magical attacks, which is very important because a lot of these demons have physical resist, so bypassing the physical resist is good. Good against wraiths, those types of units. Stuff with high physical resist. They have 95 speed, which is great. Pretty high leadership at 60. 38, 36 on the melee attack and defense. That's pretty good. I mean, that's better than a lot of the entry-level infantry. 65 weapon strength is quite high. And then they have a charge bonus of 46. So they're better. At least on paper, it looks to me like they're better than a lot of the cavalry that you're going to see for the other factions in the early game. Ironically enough. Again, they have low armor, low health, but if you're just doing hit and runs with them, they look pretty good. And they have some amount of physical resist, some amount of what I'm assuming is magic resist. They cause fear, and they're a demon, which is kind of like the undead. Basically, they never run, but they start crumbling once they reach certain thresholds of damage. Looks like they also have Vanguard. So, pretty good flanking unit. One of the better sort of flanking units early on. And then once you get to this amount, and I don't remember how much corruption this is, it's pretty low. Then you get Foreboding Ignition. So I think that's just with your Lord. You get 25 armor, which is good. Melee defense. So that's pretty solid. Okay, so for 420, then you get access to these guys. So I think this is probably around 400 favor to get into the tier 2 stuff. And again, you're going to have a tier 2 building to get this, I believe. Okay, so Greatsword Infantry, they get a bonus versus other infantry. They still only have 30 armor, which is really low. It's not that fantastic. But the 34-26 is pretty good. So kind of like Greatswords from Empire, but way less armor. They do have, it looks like quite a bit of armor piercing, and I would assume it's probably somewhere between 5 and 10 bonus versus infantry. So they're really going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 to 45 melee attack, which again is pretty good, but that armor is a little concerning to me. Only having 30 for being a 200 gold like mid-tier infantry is kind of low. They do have a lot of health. I don't know how much physical resist they have. They do have some physical resist. Again, A lot of demons are also going to have magic damage, though, so that's going to get bypassed if you fight other demons. I do not know what the special ability is for Khorne. Presumably, it's extra damage if they're in melee combat. I think from what I remember, it's something along the lines of the longer you stay in combat, the more effective you become. What is it, Rory?
There's chocolate inside that, isn't it?
Okay. And magic resist, cause fear, demon. So, okay. Not phenomenal. Okay, in my opinion. And then we've got Chaos Warriors of Khorne. Now, these are better. Now, these are like your standard Chaos Warriors from the Chaos Warriors faction. However, they do have Frenzy, and I think they're cheaper. So they're only 187. They have 9,000 HP, which is really high. They have Silver Shield and 100 armor, so that's huge. There's a lot of missile infantry out there. High leadership. Their speed is low, but I don't think that matters as much, especially if you have a Silver Shield. Like, you can just walk into the archers, Silver Shield and that much armor, and just eat a lot of the damage they have coming in. So their melee attack is effectively 46 with Frenzy, as long as they stay over 50% leadership and they have high leadership. So these are some serious units. These are a very, very good bargain. I don't know, on paper to me, these look way better than the Bloodletters of Khorne. Because you're talking 46-40 on the melee attack and defense. Weapon strength is similar. They don't have the armor piercing damage, but they have huge armor with a silver shield to go with it and like more HP. So I think these are really good. This is probably the best infantry, or some of the best infantry you can get of any of the units, you know, for your first 3 building chains. So if you want a really strong infantry line, these are great. And it only takes tier 2 to get to this. So this is pretty simple. It's 560 Khorne glory. So if you do want a strong front line, you know, these could be a candidate for it, which is good. You know, if you want to get more like flanking monster units or flying units or something, it's really nice to have that solid core that you can just throw in there that'll just stay in combat forever. These are going to be the units for that, so they're strong. They are not demons, so they do not cause fear. They don't have, you know, any of the other demon-like qualities, but really good mortal units. Okay, allows you to get a Blood Reaper, which is kind of cool. You get bonuses when fighting against Slaanesh. Sure. And you only get, I think, 1 unit at tier 3, if I'm seeing that correctly. You get 1 unit at tier 3. It's a magical chariot, so its stats on paper look pretty bad, but it does have a few things that I can't see. So presumably this is some kind of support unit. It's kind of expensive at 250, but I just don't know what these auras do. Their icons look like they would increase melee damage or make people bleed or something like that, so presumably they're good at melee because it's Khorne. But in general, I'm not a big fan of chariots. I feel like they get tied up too much by spears and halberds. They're really hard to maneuver in settlement sieges. They can just get like surrounded by monsters or monstrous cavalry. So I'm not a big fan of chariots, but if you can micro them really well, they can be okay. This also doesn't have a great charge bonus at 45, but again, the real power of this unit, I suspect, is likely in the bonuses that I can't see here. But I'm a little skeptical at first, unless those bonuses are insane about that unit. Okay, and now we're getting into tier 4. So I'll show you what these are, but remember, it's going to take you forever to get to this, probably, if you're playing on Legendary especially. You got Chaos Warriors with Halberds, which are basically standard Chaos Warriors, but they get a bonus versus large. So still good units, marginally more expensive. They do have, it looks like charge protection against all, or charge defense against all. And then you have the dual weapons of Khorne, which these are probably even better. They do have much higher weapon strength, and they do have a bonus versus infantry, so presumably that's probably around 10 bonus versus infantry. They are a little bit more expensive. They do not have the silver shield, but these are going to be some of the best anti-infantry that you're going to be able to get in the game, most likely. So they're really good, but they're also tier 4. Okay, and then I think he might show us some of the items here. Burning Rage, Tempered Rage. So again, not entirely sure what that does, but presumably buffs you up for melee combat. Okay, so you get Fueled by Rage, Gore Feast, Armor Piercing. We haven't seen a set. Okay, here's a set bonus item. Armaments of War. Maybe, I thought the set, that was an indication of a set bonus, but maybe it's not. Trying to see if we can see the set bonus. Serpentine Tail. So this also looks like a set, but I don't know. Maybe it's just marking. Because the tail up here was part of the bonus. Okay, here we go. That's a different tail. Okay, so this is battle-worn tail. Okay, so you get extra Khorne glory, extra recruitment, and then bonus versus infantry for Khorne units. That's actually extremely good. If you get chosen, or not chosen, if you just get the Chaos Warriors, like the tier 2 Chaos Warriors, which again, that's very good for tier 2. Chaos Warriors, I believe, were tier 3. They might have been tier 2 in the original game. But that's very good. 10 bonus versus infantry is big time. That would put them at 55 melee attack early and like whatever it was, 40 defense. 55 melee attack, 40 defense, and somewhere around like 40 or 50 weapon damage, 100 armor with silver shields, high leadership. That is, you know, elite infantry superiority. So that's very, very good, which is what you would expect from Khorne. Trophy collar, but you have to have all 3 to get that bonus. So you have to be pretty high up there, presumably. Where's the last set piece? Now, it looks like there's more than... There's like 4 set pieces, and the 3 we looked at that we can see, there's only 3 of them. So you have to go at least to here, which again is deep into tier 4. So you probably won't be able to get that set bonus unless you want to hard commit. Okay, going into Nurgle. Okay, we have Nurgling Swarm, very cheap, only 87 golds. These are your zombie-like type of units. They do have physical resist. We don't know how much. They have this icon, which I don't know what that is. I think it's some form of regeneration. I think it's the longer you stay in combat, you get more regeneration, something like that. And then they have magical attacks and poison. So a lot of Nurgle units are going to have poison, which basically lowers damage and is basically damage across the board by 15% in most circumstances. So 24, not great. Obviously, 0 armor is not good. They do have quite a bit of HP at 8,400 for like tier 1 infantry. So, you know, you can just stick them in there. They might last for a little while. They have decent leadership at 50. So for 87, they're pretty good, but they're nothing like insane. They're obviously fodder units. It doesn't say they're expendable, but in theory, they should be expendable. It's only 35 Nurgle juice to get them, so they're very cheap. If you need like some zombie-like units, they're way better than like zombies or Skaven slaves. So they're pretty good entry-level things. Now we have the Plague Toads. Now these, I was pretty impressed with these because they're 30-24, which is okay for entry-level cavalry. Not amazing, but this is tier 1, not even tier 2. Tier 1 cavalry, so compare these to like the dogs, basically like the Chaos Hounds we saw up top. And they're going to have bonus versus infantry. We don't know how much, but they have 50 melee attack, which is quite a bit, and they get some amount of bonus versus infantry, and they have 50 armor. That is huge. Remember, the dogs only have, I think the upgraded dogs had 30, and the smaller ones had 15. So this is a lot more armor. They still have the physical resist. Presumably they have regeneration of some sort. Decent charge bonus at 36. I think that's on par with the dogs. Might be slightly less. They cause poison, magical attacks, all that good stuff. So I think these are really good at flanking, just kind of hit and run on the infantry. Their speed's all right at 60. So these are quite good for 163. So you've got, with Nurgle, you have decent fodder infantry you can throw in at tier 1, and you have cavalry at tier 1. So that's pretty nice. And then Nurgle stuff, leadership when fighting Tzeentch. Okay. Now these are somewhat interesting at 187, so these are on par with the Warriors of Chaos, or Chaos Warriors, whatever. They only have 25 armor, so that's far less armor. They do have physical resist and regeneration. Again, Chaos Warriors are not going to have that, but remember, a lot of these units have magical attacks that are going to pierce through the physical resist. They themselves have magical attacks, poisons, that's going to lower the damage they take. They have a lot of health, almost 12,000 HP, so they're going to have way more than the Chaos Warriors. Their melee attack is far lower. Their melee defense, I think, is like 8 points lower, so they're going to be a lot less effective in combat. Their leadership is lower. Their speed is really slow, but that probably doesn't matter too much most of the time. It's annoying having to wait on them, but it's probably okay. And then you have the weapon strength of 48. It's pretty respectable. So I think probably the Warriors of Chaos are still going to be stronger, depending on what you can get skill-wise, technology-wise, all that kind of stuff to buff these guys up. And, you know, what you could buff up with the Khorne units. I think Khorne is going to win out a little bit, but these are still pretty strong. It depends on how strong this regeneration is, too. But these are likely going to be able to stay in combat as kind of meat shields for longer, but the Warriors of Chaos are going to kill more units. Neither one of them is a great offensive unit, but that one's going to be significantly better offensively, I think, and this one's going to be a decent amount better on defense. Okay, and then the tier 2, you get a Plague-Ridden, and I'm not super familiar with the heroes, so we'll just have to see when that comes out. And then at tier 3, you get this guy. It's a single entity monster for 150 gold, though. That is very cheap for a single entity monster. Most big monsters are at least 250, somewhere in that neighborhood. It has normal regeneration, whatever this is, so it might have 2 forms of regeneration. I'm not sure. And it has this thing, which looks like it should be some sort of AoE damage. That might be a little too strong at tier 3. I'm not sure what that icon is, but it looks like it should be some sort of debuff. Physical resist, and then it has a decent chunk of health, not as much as like a giant or something like that, but 6,300 is okay. It's more than most lords to start with. 50 armor is very good. 40 speed is faster than it looks like it should move. And then pretty good armor piercing damage, so might be okay at dueling enemy lords. It's got the poison, it's got the magical resist, so again, not like a huge like fighter unit that's amazing, but it looks pretty solid for 150. It looks pretty good to me. Very good tanky meat shield unit. It also does have siege attacker, so that's really nice because you do not have a lot of artillery. You're just going to have to go in through the front door most of the time, it looks like. So I think you can get artillery later, but early on it looks like it might be a struggle. Okay, so anyways, very effective, like good unit at tier 3 in my opinion. Even though I don't know what, what that special icon is, it looks good anyways. So I think that will probably be better than the chariot in a lot of situations. Unlock switchable plagues feature for your army. So I don't know exactly what that is. If that allows you to have plagues and to be immune to plagues, that seems pretty good. That seems pretty good to me. So I don't know everything about the plagues, but that seems like a really good thing to get. But I think that means I don't know how much you have to have for that. Quite a bit. Probably somewhere, I was about to say somewhere near 1,000. So about 1,000 if you want to unlock that, which looks pretty good. The Khorne one, I can't remember exactly what that was, but I was like, it's okay, but not great. And then the Flying Warbeast Rotflies look fantastic, although again, they are tier 4. But for 225, you get flying monsters that have really heavy armor-piercing damage, and then it looks like they have, whatever that is, presumably some form of regeneration, physical resist. They're demons, so 90 speed, which is very good for flying monsters, and 40 armor. So these look really good. But again, tier 4 units going to take you forever to get to them. But as we all know, if you've played any, Warhammer, flying units are very, very strong, especially on sieges. So it gives you air superiority to take out enemy flying stuff if they have that, and then just being able to charge cycle flying stuff into the back, especially things that cause fear or even better terror. This doesn't have terror, but is really, really strong. So this is good. I'll be at tier 4 again, so you're probably not going to see it a lot, but if you want to commit to tier 3, you can just go a little nudge up and get to tier 4 if you want that. It's showing some other stuff here. So let me see. It went the furthest on Nurgle, it looks like. Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle. So this is elite infantry. It says it has a special ranged attack, very low ammo, looks like very low damage. So that's kind of weird. But 38 melee attack, 40 melee defense. This is tier 4, presumably. 1,500 Nurgle. Low armor, very high health though at 13,000. 38, 40, 52 weapon strength. In my opinion, doesn't look that great for tier 4. The other stuff, just the normal plague bears at tier 2, looking pretty good. These, obviously you'll get them, probably, but they are far more expensive, and it's not as impressive in my opinion. Raising settlements, you get plus 20%, you get extra casualty replenishment rate. Not that amazing. It's okay, but remember that's very, very expensive. I think, in order to get all the way up there. I'd probably rather just speed through the Undivided, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. I don't want this video to go too long, probably clocking in about an hour. Forsaken, so this is presumably still tier 4. Frenzied, poison attacks, 2100. I mean, they're good if you get them, but probably not worth it. Probably not worth it. The armor is nice. 200 is not that bad. It's pretty expensive. Forsaken was tier 3 in the original game. Now, it says they're tier 2, though. Hold up. What is... So this is Plague Bearers of Nurgle, tier 2. Can you unlock other tier 2 units at a much higher rate? So that says that's tier 2 as well. I know for a fact, I saw this in a playthrough, that these wasps, or whatever, you had to have a tier 4 building to get them. Like, 100%. So we'll see what the wasp is. Okay, so it's saying 2. So I don't know what that means, but there's no way you get this at tier 2. It is a tier 4. I was looking at another content creator, so I don't know what these little icons mean. It was kind of throwing me off a little bit. Sorry. Anyways, that's kind of weird. Okay, so almost certainly you have to get this at tier 4, possibly even tier 5. Okay, so they're walking through some of the stuff. Now, the Nurgle stuff, I do know some of that, and some of that actually looks quite good. Pestilent Decay, so not 100% about that, but presumably that's some kind of AoE that could be really good. Slime Trail, not 100%. That looks like the same icon that the dude has, so presumably that like slows people down or debuffs them or something. This looks really good. So I don't know if that's free or if you have to... Presumably you have to spend Winds of Magic on this, but Purple Sun is quite good. And this is very early, so you get 2 different things with this. You get Call for Power, whatever that is, probably strong. And then you get a spell, Purple Sun. Purple Sun also, like, you have to usually have like a tier or a level 10 or something mage to get to that. That's a very powerful vortex, especially on sieges. It's not the most powerful in the game. It does run around, and in Warhammer 2, it's, you know, can move away pretty quickly, but it's still like really good. And I think the cost on it's pretty reasonable too, like 18 magic, at least it was in Warhammer 2. So that's really quite good for a low level item to have that as a bound spell. Then you get Fate of Buna. This is another one that's pretty good. It's higher level. It's been nerfed a ton because of multiplayer, but it's a point click, basically do a lot of damage to this unit. So that's really good against like elite infantry and stuff like that, but it costs like 20 Winds of Magic, so it's a little bit more on the expensive side. But the fact that you're getting bound spells in addition to something that gives like 15 armor and 10 melee defense is pretty good. Bonus versus infantry. I don't know what two-handed weapon means. Okay. Maybe that means you do more splash damage or something. Stream of Corruption, not sure about that. Presumably some kind of debuff. Main hand weapon. Okay, so if you have two-handed, I'm assuming that means you can't wear like a shield or something. But maybe it does more damage. Okay, so this is weird because, again, this is Call for Power, Purple Sun. So does that mean you have to have the whole set and the tooltip is just messed up? I don't know. It would make more sense if that was a whole set thing, because a single item that's around at like level whatever seems strong. Unit mass, so you can get bigger. Fate of Buna, Spirit Leech, Cloud of Flies. I'm pretty sure that like lowers the melee attack or increases your melee defense, something like that. Call to Power, okay, Dual Horns. So it's not showing us the set, but oh wait, there it is. So you need the legs, the head. So this gives extra 20% replenishment for Nurgle units. That's really good if you're just moving along from battle to battle to battle. Obviously having huge replenishment is big. Okay, so pretty good set bonus. Okay. So Nurgle, in my opinion, looks quite strong through tier 3. I think I would put them above... I don't know. Their tier 1 is above Khorne for sure. Their tier 2... It depends. It's hard to say. Khorne might edge them out a little bit with the Chaos Warriors, because I think those, like I said, are better like offensive units, but I think both of them are similar enough where you're just going to put them in there. They cost the same amount of gold, and they're just going to hold the line for a really long time, probably. So the silver shields are really nice. So if you're against a lot of missile infantry, the warriors might have a big advantage. I think at tier 3, Nurgle has quite a significant advantage. This thing, depending on what the debuff is, seems like it's better than the chariot to me. But so I would probably edge Nurgle. I would say Nurgle's probably a little bit better than Khorne, at least for the first 3 levels. We'll see. Now we got these Marauders here. This is Slaanesh. Okay, so these are good, like entry level. They're only 100. They're 32-20. They only have 15 melee attack. This is basically the Norscan like Marauders, right, or Warriors of Chaos Marauders. Basically, they do have bonus versus infantry. I don't know what that is. Presumably, it's like 5 for a tier 1 unit, which would give them 37-33 on the damage. They are immune to psychology, so they're immune to fear. They don't do magic damage. They don't have physical resist. It says they are meat shield, but it does not say they're expendable, I don't believe. They do have pretty good health, so they're okay. I would probably favor Nurgle tier 1, just having the cavalry and a meat shield unit is probably a little bit better. But again, you're talking a very small amount before you move up into tier 2 in terms of how much favor you need. Now, these do have this cavalry. This seems on the weak side to me compared to the Toad. Maybe I'm wrong about it. But only 15 armor feels rough. It has lower HP, 15 armor. It's very fast. It has a lot of speed, but the 24-24 just seems weak. I don't remember what the Toad was, but I'm pretty sure it was more than 24-24. Wasn't it at least like 30-26 or something? It feels like it was a little higher. I think they both had poison. It doesn't have magical attacks, which is significant because remember, a lot of demonic stuff is going to have physical resist, so you get a lot of value out of magical attacks. Now it does have bonus versus large. We don't know what that number is, so if it's a lot, if it's like 10 or something like that, then that's pretty good against other cavalry. But otherwise it seems a little underwhelming compared to the Toads to me. It is just a tier 1 cavalry, presumably. Now this has the 3 stars next to it, so I don't know if that means it is like it requires tier 3 or not. Again, it's a little frustrating because I don't have a build of this. I don't know exactly. But if you can get it at tier 1, it seems pretty good. It seems like a tier 1 type of unit. It's 150 gold, so...
Can you give me my big one for
Okay, here you go. So it seems okay. And I don't know what this bonus is here either that Slaanesh gets. Presumably it's some kind of hit and run bonus. You're welcome. But anyways, and they have Vanguard deploy. So with Slaanesh, you're paying a lot for speed, armor piercing damage, which it doesn't look like they have a lot, but it's mostly speed, armor piercing, Vanguard, and just lots of like hit and run flank attacks with Slaanesh in general. So it's okay. I'm not like super impressed, but okay. So these are Demonettes of Slaanesh. So they have like almost no armor, like 5 armor. 38 melee attack, 36 defense, 32 with armor piercing damage. They, have some physical attacks, which again or physical resist, which is gonna get nullified in a lot of situations. I don't know what this bonus is. Presumably, something with hit and run, and they are kind of fast at 54. But man, it seems pretty at 200. This seems significantly weaker to me than Warriors of Chaos or the Nurgle, equivalent. So it's like the armor piercing is good, but 5 armor, they're just going to get absolutely melted. In my experience, just the low armor, they don't even have frenzy, but like the low armor frenzy berserker type of units just get absolutely melted against like real infantry with armor. So I don't know. We'll have to see, but to me, it seems like they're coming in a little weak compared to the other ones. And then, bro, like, what? He hovered it for like a millisecond. Let me see here. I know he's got a lot to go through, but okay. So these are just spears. Okay, so it's just Marauders with spears, which is underwhelming. I think. Now, it does say 1, so maybe it is a tier 1 unit again at 112, although it's listed under tier 2. It's kind of confusing. So it looks like you'd need a tier 2 building for it, but it's a tier 1 unit. Again, I could be wrong about that. I could be interpreting it incorrectly, but these are Hell Scourges, so it's 137. So it's looking, I mean, this is priced like a tier 1 unit. It's 137 only, and it looks like it is Marauders. So that just, to me, that would be really awkward. I mean, I guess there's a reason if you have like a cool tier 3 unit or something that only like shows up like right here. You know, like early on, so you could just put a couple of points into it and get access to a tier 3 unit. But then it just feels like, how would that work, right? If like they have a tier 1 unit up here, but like one of these, like maybe the cavalry is a tier 2 unit or something like that. What was the cavalry listed at? Let me see. Well, like the cavalry is a tier 2 or something, right? Like that's tier 1. Okay, so it's saying this is tier 3. But, like, I mean, I guess they have a tier 1 unit there, but it just feels really weird if you get this to try to get to be able to unlock. You want to get to the cavalry at tier 3, but you don't have a tier 2 unit, so you can't get anything at tier 2 unless you go higher in the tree. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it just feels like it'd be really weird if you like invest in one of these early on to get access to like a cool tier 3 unit or tier 2 unit, but then you can't do anything at tier 1 or tier 2. You just have buildings that don't do anything basically when you're going up to tier 3 because you haven't unlocked the requisite units for it. It just seems like a really strange way to balance the power if that's what that is supposed to mean. But anyway, Slaanesh, a little on the weak side. We'll speed it up just so that I think that's almost certainly the weakest. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but it strikes me as the weakest link by quite a large margin, at least with Chaos Undivided. Maybe they have, what was that bonus there? Let me see. Maybe the bonus is insane. No, it's about the same as the other ones. You do get upkeep reduction, which is very nice, but I think 20% replenishment is at least on par with that from Nurgle. So Slaanesh definitely seems a step lower, in my opinion, than the other ones. Maybe they have good campaign mechanics with Slaanesh proper, but as far as Daemons, Undivided here, they seem like the weaker one. Nurgle seems to be on par with Khorne, maybe slightly better, depending on the situation. But those two are similar. Slaanesh definitely down. And then when we look at Tzeentch here, so they have this barrier thing, and I don't know how big that barrier is. The way that it looks visually on the bar makes it look like the barrier matches the HP visually, but there's no way that's true. Like, there's no way this thing has 15,000 effective HP. And there are some bonuses that add, like, 100 shield. So we don't know. Like, this looks really strong, but this shield could be for, like, 100 or 200 to start with. I don't know the numbers on the shield. But it's almost certainly not a one-for-one comparison like it looks like visually. So these things are pretty cheap at 100. They're pretty bad in combat, 2022. So they are definitely a step down from the other ones. They do have flaming attacks, which in theory I think is very good versus Nurgle. Anything that has regeneration. They have the physical resist. They only have 5 ammo with 90 range. It's pretty good. I don't know if it splashes. Presumably, if it's a flaming magical attack, it probably splashes. So I don't know. Just... if it does splash damage, that could actually be quite good for a tier 1 unit. But if it just hits individual units, just like an arrow or something like that, it's not going to be that great. So they are okay. They're not insane. They're all right early on. They don't have a lot of ammo. Now, this thing, if this really is a tier 1 or possibly a tier 2 unit for 175, this looks quite good. Quite good, in my opinion, because it flies. Anything, again, that flies at tier 1 or tier 2... except for maybe things like bats, and maybe these are on par with bats. I don't know. They do have low armor. They have low HP. Their melee defense is kind of low, so their numbers are a little low. But they have high speed. They do fly. They do a lot of weapon damage. 60 weapon damage is a lot. They do have a bonus versus large, which is a little weird. They are large themselves. So they could come down and like flank and get the charge on cavalry. And that's another benefit of flying units is they always get their charge off for the most part, right? Even against other cavalry, they're going to be the ones to charge because they're coming in from the sky. So it nullifies the charge of a lot of enemies. So they look pretty good to me. So frail, but good, especially as a utility unit early on. And again, we don't know how big this barrier is. Yes, you can do hit and run and replenish the barrier, but if it's only like, 200 or 300 shield and you have to be out of combat for like 30 seconds or something to replenish it, it may not be as OP as people think it is, but we'll just have to play it and see. But the flyers look pretty good. The blue guys are like okay. And now you get the pink horrors. Now these are a little bit better. They're still pretty bad in combat, but they have higher range at 130 and 28 missile strength early on for, a tier 1 or tier 2 unit. This would be a tier 2 unit. Looks pretty good. And again, we're going to have to see if it splashes or not, but looks okay. Like pretty good archers. Also don't know how much this arcs. So if this is on par with like gunners and things like that, if it has trouble I think that's what it's looked like in my videos. If it has trouble shooting through trees or shooting over walls or hills or whatever, it could be kind of bad. But if this is like actual archer stuff, if it arcs and can go over walls, if it can go over your infantry line and hit other archers or other things on the back line, then this could be like pretty reasonable. Unlock iridescent horror, okay. So this is pretty wimpy at tier 1 and tier 2. Like you have no like real infantry. You do have some archers. These are basically just, you'll always get these probably over the blue ones as long as you have the money. So it's just kind of a rehashing of the same thing. And then you have some flying units. So the flying is good, but you don't have a lot of beef. You don't have a lot of utility here. Now Forsaken of Tzeentch. Now this is tier 2, presumably. So this is way better. Wasn't the Forsaken for Khorne? It was listed like it was tier 4. It might have been tier 3, but I'm almost certain it was not tier 2.
I see some my popsicle over here.
Okay, get him. Okay. So if it's a tier 2 unit, that's actually quite good at tier 2. Now these have the barrier, they have frenzy, presumably magic resist. 32 melee attack, 20 melee defense is not the greatest in the world, but they do have really high weapon strength, pretty good charge bonus, good armor, so that's what you need for kind of a front line. They're not going to be able to do as good on the front line as like Warriors of Chaos, but they're going to do a lot better than everything else here. So getting to tier 3, if this is a tier 3 unit, and potentially a tier 2 unit, then that could be pretty good. Now one thing that I will note right here, I don't know what this is, but I want it. If I'm playing in the campaign, unlocks teleport stance. Does that mean, presumably it doesn't mean like anywhere on the map, or like, can you teleport to your own settlements? Is it kind of like the Wood Elves or something like that? You can teleport to other special places with gates or something? I don't know. But even if it's just like underway or something, right? Which I think at a minimum it would probably be underway. So like the Skaven or the Greenskins or whatever, you want that. Like being able to move like that is so huge when you're going through mountains, especially if you want to go through like the Mountains of Morn. If you're trying to go over bodies of water, like the river that kind of runs through the top of the chaos sort of areas, you really want that. Now it is like 1,000 to get to it, so that's pretty deep you have to go. And these units are underwhelming compared to most of the other ones, but that's a very good campaign mechanic, I think. It seems like it would be good. So if I had to rank these right now, what would I invest in early on? And again, my understanding of this might be a little fuzzy because I don't have actual access to it and I haven't seen all the footage, but if I had to rank them, I would put Nurgle probably the highest, barely over Khorne. I think those two are very close and potentially interchangeable. Then I would probably say Tzeentch, especially if you want to go for the teleportation, and then I would say Slaanesh like below that. So there might be some good things for all of them, but that's just kind of how I'm reading it right now as far as Chaos Undivided and what you see. However, I would try to go Undivided as fast as you can all the way to the top. That's what I think is probably the best, although there might be, maybe going all the way with Slaanesh or Nurgle might be a little bit better. But if you go all the way with Undivided, and I'm going to show you that just the back half of the video. So you get Spawn of Tzeentch, is basically Chaos Spawn, which are pretty good. You get Transmutation of Lead, which is a pretty good spell. Demonic Onslaught. See, that right there said barrier hit points plus 50, and the one below that, or the one just before that, said plus 100. So that leads me to believe that the barrier is not like crazy. It might be like 1,000 or 2,000 or something tops, unless you get other things to modify it. Okay, so the Withered Prince, plus 15% barrier for horrors. Basically, your ranged units. So, okay, not that great. I feel like Nurgle and Slaanesh seem to have the best ones. I can't remember what Khorne's was. Okay, now we get to this stuff over here. So he's going to show us some of these, even though it's grayed out. So basically, if you get to roughly 4,000 points with these different gods, 4,000 favor, whatever, with Slaanesh, your Flesh Hounds, Khorne and Minotaurs of Khorne units, or Flesh Hounds of Khorne and Minotaurs get Frenzy. You get extra weapon strength for Bloodletters and Chaos Warriors. Okay, so that's really good. And then you get a little bit of extra spell resistance. Okay. So if you get around 4,000, you're going to get that. If you get Nurgle up to 4,000, you're going to get defense for Plague Bearers and Exalted Plague Bearers. So just kind of your front line. Soak units. Weapon strength for Rotflies and Beasts of Nurgle, so your flying units and your weird single entity units. That's okay, not insane, it's alright. Slaanesh, your Demonettes and Exalted Demonettes get extra speed, which doesn't matter that much. You get charge bonus, which is okay. At least all three of these are for the same units, but those are those units with like no armor that I think are just going to get massacred on the front line. So, I don't know, seems pretty weak to me. Like low tier units. And then these guys, your Flamers and Exalted Flamers, get melee defense. They're really weak units, I think. They're really high level units, like tier 3, tier 4 type of units. And they're missile, so why do you have melee defense? In case they get flanked, I guess? I don't know. You want to keep them out of melee, I'm pretty sure. Ammo, 20%, that's good. And then extra missile damage, those two are good. They don't have a lot of ammo to begin with, so the 20% is not doing a ton for you, but it's better than nothing. And then Undivided, so you have to have up to about 4,000 Undivided to get to that. Now this is where it gets interesting. If you go all the way up to about 4,000 with Khorne, it locks all of your other stuff, so you cannot gain any more favor with any more of the other gods. And you get huge diplomatic penalties with everyone, but you get extra bonuses if you do it. So if you go all the way with one of those gods, just be careful. It's going to take away your ability to get bonuses with all of the other ones. Including, I believe, the Undivided. So you can't get the Undivided stuff. So anything here or further, it's unique. You have to choose to get there, and you have to spend a lot of currency to get up there. And it's the same drill with all of them. You get extra gifts. And we'll go over these hopefully kind of quickly here, but I do want to be, thorough and show you guys as usual. Okay, so what are we getting into? Okay, so if you go Undivided, then you first up get upkeep 10%, recruitment costs minus 10% for every unit you can possibly hire, and you get 10 summons of Chaos Furies, which I think are basically harpies. So they're weak units, but they fly, and you get 10 of them. So just think about how powerful the Skaven Menace from Below can be in certain situations. You get 10 every fight for free. Now, it is a 90-second cooldown, so you'd have to be fighting for, almost 1,000 seconds, whatever that is, 10 or 15 minutes to get full use out of it. But that's kind of nice. Okay, then it's going to go through the other stuff. So basically, this is where you get all the units. You get a ton of units, like so many value. I mean, look at all these units. You basically get all of the late game units that are demons for each other faction, even some that are not demons for each other faction. So you get no units on the way up. So this is like, if you're going to be really gangster and try to only get like just a little bit of Nurgle or a little bit of Khorne and then just skyrocket all the way up here to get to the late game units, that could be a decent strategy. Now, I don't know where these come down. I guess this still says tier 3. I'm assuming maybe that's tier 3. Again, it's a little weird in the first part, so I could have been a little wrong about one or two of those, depending on what this means. I'm thinking this probably means tier 3, but again, like I said earlier, it's kind of weird how it's laid out, if that's how it works. Um, because it said, and I know, like, this does not line up with footage that I've seen, if that's what that means, because the flies were 100% required a tier 4 building that I saw before with Nurgle, and it was classifying the flies as tier 3, so I don't know. But anyways, late game unit, the Minotaurs for the Beastmen, I believe, are tier 3 for the normal ones, and the Great Weapons are usually tier 4 or tier 5. So anyways, late game unit, really good. Seems like a lot of the other Minotaur units. It has the charge. It's not a demon. Bonus versus large. Low melee attack and defense for a unit that expensive, but it's okay. Minotaur is a lot of weight, really big charge bonus, so that's good. You get those Plague Drones of Nurgle, so we saw those earlier. These are I think these might even be a step up from what we saw. 250 upkeep, presumably a tier 3 or tier 4 unit. Probably tier 4, and these are really good. So they fly, good charge bonus, nice armor piercing damage. The charge bonus is bad, actually, but the weapon strength with piercing is really good. Good armor, pretty good health for low entity count monsters. Chariots, Hell Flayers. This is from Slaanesh, so it's okay, not insane. Y'all know how I feel about Chariots. Doom Knights of Tzeentch. These are seem pretty strong, right? 44 melee attack baseline, 36 melee defense, 80 weapon strength, silver shields with armor, high leadership, very high speed. So yeah, these are just insane. Their charge bonus is not the biggest in the game, but it's pretty big. So these are some big time units. These are some really good cavalry. It says they're anti-infantry, which makes me believe, and they don't have the bonus to infantry, so that makes me believe they're probably pretty heavy. Skull Crushers of Khorne. These are, again, really elite cavalry. These are almost certainly tier 4 or tier 5. There's no way they're going to come out at tier 3, so I'm not sure what that means. 42 melee attack, 70 charge bonus, high weapon strength with huge armor piercing, 130 armor. These probably going to be in the running for best cavalry in the game. They're going to be right up there with anything else. So extremely good cavalry. Plague Drones, Exalted Chariot Seekers. I mean, it's just everything from every other unit. Burning Chariot of Tzeentch. So we'll save time. We'll try to get this done in a reasonable amount of time. So it's just everything that you could get. Now, again, you're going to have to build all of the separate buildings in order to get access to these things. So it looks really cool. You're not going to be able to get all of them, but basically you have the maximum amount of choices possible if you go for this. And if you want a diverse army, this last thing that I wanted to show here, you could get different lords as well. Undivided 3, minus 15% upkeep. So you get 10% up front, and then you get 15% on the back end, so that's 25% upkeep reduction on all units from any god that you want to hire. And the global recruitment is minus 2. That's huge. That means that you could get like 2-turn higher units in just 2 turns instead of 4 if you want to do it globally. Now, I don't know if they have other techs that can lower that further, but that's really, really good. Because then, remember, it takes a long time with the growth, like I said before, to get to tier 4 and tier 5. So if you manage to secure a town, get it to tier 4 or tier 5, but it's on the other side of the universe, you really want to be able to globally recruit that, and this will help you out. So global recruitment for a faction like this, especially when you have access to so many different high tier units that could be really strong, is going to be really strong. Okay. Now, on the other hand, you might be saying, well, why would you go for the other gods then? Well, we'll see these things. Let's just skip past the weapons and stuff just for the sake of time. They have some good stuff in there. All of them do. Nothing that I remember that super jumps out. You don't have the set bonuses here, though. So you have to, if you want the set bonuses, you got to spend the currency over here before you get into this. So you might be saying, well, why would you go for another faction then, right, if you have all the cool units up here? Well, because you get a lot of bonuses. Like, you double down on those units. So you get 10% charge bonus for Spawn of Khorne, Minotaurs of Khorne, Soul Grinders, and Bloodthirsters. So high tier units get charge bonuses. And you get Perfect Vigor for Bloodletters and Exalted Bloodletters. So the lower level Bloodletters, not impressive in my book. Maybe they're better than I think. The Exalted ones probably are a lot better. But Perfect Vigor is really, really good. If those Exalted ones are worth it. So you get some really nice bonuses there. Remember, he doesn't get bonuses to anything up here with the Undivided. Okay. You get access to, what was that, Minotaurs. What was that bonus? You get these other bonus checkpoints. You get the Minotaurs here. You get this. So casualty replenishment rate plus 10% for Khorne units. Ward recruit ranks, hero recruit ranks. So again, good for your Khorne units. Skull Crusher, same drill. Now this one, once you get even higher, you get minus 25% for the Khorne units, which matches what you get for the Undivided, but you also get the ability to summon whatever these are, bloodletters. So you only get 2 uses. You get bloodletters versus 10 harpies, you get 2 bloodletters, but you can cast these in a much more reasonable amount of time, right? Not 5 minutes or so, you'll be able to cast all these. Instead of 10 minutes to cast all the harpies. Your Soul Grinder, okay. Bloodthirster, I don't remember if you can get that or not with the Undivided. I think you can, but anyways, there's that. And then the final bonus. Did he hover the final bonus? Maybe there is no like super final bonus there. Okay, then you get access to different weapons, which, you know, could be good. Okay, skip that. Okay, Nurgle. So plus 10 armor for the Great Unclean Ones, and then melee defense for the Great Unclean Ones. Now I can't... Is that the... That's the Beast of Nurgle's a tier 3, so the Unclean One's tier 4, so I don't know if we saw them, or I can't remember a lot about them, but it's a fairly high-end, like tier 4 or tier 5 unit that's pretty good. So Plague Bearers of Nurgle and Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle get some bonuses, and then you get charge defense versus large for those things as well. Okay. So then you get Nurgle units. Construction cost for all buildings seems a little lame, in my opinion. You get the rank stuff. Drones. Minus 25% for Nurgle units, so okay. You get to summon some Plague Bearers. A little underwhelming. That's a fairly low tier unit. Soul Grinder. Unclean One. Oh, there was the Unclean One. Or was that a Great Unclean One? It's probably a Great One, right? Okay, that's the Great One. So that's like a Lord, I think. Maybe. Maybe not. Anyways, okay. Not insane, but okay. You get Boil, all this other stuff. Okay, so Demonettes get plus 10 damage. That is a lot, because their base damage is not that high. And Exalted Demonettes, you get some charge bonuses, you get a little physical resist, and you get Perfect Vigor for Seekers of Slaanesh, Heart Seekers. So those are the cavalry units, I think. So Perfect Vigor on cavalry is obviously quite strong. So that's good. Hellflayers. Now, this is one of the most worthless ones I've seen. Unless I don't know. Unless there's some kind of technology where this matters. But plus 10 diplomacy with all factions, like, everybody hates you. You're chaos. Like, no one's going to do business with you. No one likes you. I don't know. Maybe other chaos gods might like you, but that seems, like, profoundly weak. So Khorne's is the best one so far if you want to go all the way up here. 25% summon from beyond. You get Demonettes, which, again, are not, like that amazing this late in the game. Keeper of Secrets, okay. And then, okay, you get some stuff, which is alright. Again, I don't know what most of those abilities are. Maybe they're really OP, but we just can't know. Now, a lot of this is going to depend on what that attribute means. Master of Elementary Winds for basically your spellcaster. So I don't know if that means that you get, presumably... I think that means that you can get spells from different schools of magic if you have that. But I'm not 100% what that means precisely. But that's probably pretty good. And then 8% physical resist for Flamers and Exalted Flamers. And charge bonus. Okay. I thought that was for Flamers for a second. For Knights, that's okay. Missile resistance for Screamers is okay. A little underwhelming. Chance of Winds of Magic changing in strength plus 10% faction-wide. So that presumably means you might get a little more Winds of Magic. It doesn't seem amazing, but maybe I'm underestimating it. Get to summon some pink horrors. Late game, okay. Like, not insane. You get the discounts, alright. And you get a Lord of Change. Okay. So in my opinion, by far and away, I would much, much, much rather have Chaos Undivided. It's like, yes, you do not get the bonuses, some of the other ones, but most of those bonuses are kind of a joke, in my opinion, or they're at least not compelling enough to make me want to stop the diversity. Like, I would much rather have the diversity of getting all these units, and again, you're not going to be able to get all of them, right? But, you know, presumably you can mix and match a few of these things, you know, especially the tier 1 and the tier 2 things. Like, you can mix and match these. I guess these are mostly like tier 3 or tier 4, but I would just rather have the diversity and get 25% off of all units, right? Even if you have the diversity at lower levels, if you're mixing and matching some Khorne with some Nurgle, with some Tzeentch, getting 25% upkeep reduction on all of those, including your lords and everything else, your heroes, I think that's way, way better than fully committing to one god. Okay, you can go to a little bit of a quieter place if you want. I think that's a good idea. I'll be done in just a second. So, my strategy right now that I would predict... Okay.
I'm talking to students,
Okay.
I'll come back.
Okay, that sounds good. So, my strategy, I would say early on, and again, it's going to depend on how exactly what tier these things fall in, but based on at least the upkeep costs and the prices and things like that, I would probably just go like maybe early like Nurgle, maybe a little bit of early Khorne, maybe a little bit of early Tzeentch. I'd probably skip the Slaanesh, most likely. Depends on how powerful that teleport thing is for Tzeentch, if how far up you want to go with that. But I would want to go Nurgle, almost certainly at least through tier 2, maybe through tier 3. I don't know how powerful those plagues are either, but basically a little bit of Nurgle, possibly a little bit of Khorne. If you feel like you really need the Warriors of Chaos, that's all it's going to come down to. Do you need those Warriors of Chaos, or are the Nurgle units, the Nurgle Meat Shield infantry units, are those good enough? And then Tzeentch, how much do you really care about those flying things? I think, and you know, having the ranged is nice because you have no range with any of the other ones early, I don't believe, or not a lot. So if you really want those pink horrors, and they do have decent movement speeds, you can move around to the back and like shoot into their back. So I could see like early Nurgle, early Tzeentch type of build, where you're getting a beefy front line and you're using the Tzeentch units to fly in and sort of clean people up or clean up archers, and then using the pink horrors to help you kind of flank and shoot stuff down or shoot down skirmishing units or whatever. That's what I would probably do. A little bit of Nurgle, a little bit of Tzeentch, kind of see how much you need, and then I would just blast through if you can, if it's viable in the campaign, just try to move all the way up to the Chaos Undivided ASAP. You know, maybe you need to go a little bit deeper, but I probably would not go for the tier 4 in any of the gods down here. I would just save that for the Undivided. So get to tier 3 wherever you think you need to go for whichever units. For me, like I said, again, Nurgle seems like the best all around, and then there are like some good things in Tzeentch if you want more utility units. They probably have the best casters too, I'm presuming, in Tzeentch. Skip Slaanesh, Khorne only if you need the Warriors of Chaos, which again I'm not sure that you do, and that's how I would probably do it. Nurgle, Tzeentch, Undivided, dominate late game. That's how I would look at it. But anyways, that's going to be it, and you know, stay tuned. I'll be doing more videos like this where I'm trying to break down and sort of think about some different things, and as soon as I get access, I will do my own playthroughs. I will clarify a lot of these things, and do let me know in the comments if you've watched a lot of these other playthroughs and you see kind of what's happening. Let me know what's up there. But anyways, that's going to be it. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.